Don Lucien, I'd like to hear from you next, and then I'm going to hear from Miss Leah, and then we're going to end our couch session here with Regal Dr. Mims over here. So, Don, tell us the story about your life.
It's very hard to encapsulate one's life into a few moments of conversation, but I'm very happy to share with you some of the experiences that I've enjoyed and had in my life. I've been very fortunate. I am my mother's 7th daughter. One died at birth, so 6 of us were raised to maturity in the Yakima Valley in a little town called Prosser, Washington. I feel so fortunate to have come from a family that was very, very loving and positive. My father, Austin Sharp, had moved us all to the Yakima Valley from Montana when I was 9 months old. He had become a legend by the time I was in my teens or before. If you were as honest as Austin Sharp, you could be trusted with anything. So I was raised in that kind of atmosphere, loving and family that was really very, very warm and caring. My oldest sister was 19 years older than I, so I had a nephew 2 years younger than I, and they lived in Prosser as well. The sister next to me was 5 years older, and then the next one was 12, the next was 14, and the next one was 16. So I had these wonderful role models growing up, beautiful sisters who were just very positive in everything they did. As I said, the oldest one married when I was very young, and the second one moved to Seattle. I was fortunate to be able to spend time in Seattle in my growing up years with her. She became a secretary to some very important people. And the third sister married a local man, Milton Mercer, in the Yakima Valley, and my 2 nephews have 2 wineries over there, Mercer Estates, and Alexandria Nicole, our family wineries. And my 4th sister married and moved to Los Angeles, and my sister, who remained at home, left home to go to California to college when I was 12 years old. So from the time I was 12, I was an only child, which was a very interesting change in my life. I graduated from Prosser High School, attended Mills College in Oakland, California for 2 years. And back in those days, women, there weren't as many opportunities for women in those days, and all the things that women could be, like librarians and social workers and teachers, were not things that appealed to me, so I became an art major. At the end of my 2nd year, my brother-in-law, who had married my fourth sister, decided to move his business, which was Time Oil Company, to Los Angeles, to decide to open offices in Los Angeles. It was a Seattle company, and he had many service stations and so forth. And so they decided to move to Los Angeles. My sister was pregnant with their 2nd child. My brother-in-law felt that she would be lonely because she didn't know anybody in Los Angeles, and she would not be able to be as active in the community. So he asked me if I would consider going to USC to be with my sister and live with them. And I did that for a semester. My brother-in-law was rather controlling. He decided that I should be a CPA and that I needed to start taking classes in mathematics and that sort of thing. And I did it to please him, but it did not make me, it did not satisfy me. And so at the end of this first semester, I applied to Pan American Airways and became an airline stewardess. I married the man who was running for mayor of Tacoma, moved to Tacoma, and that was the best thing that could possibly ever have happened to me. I love this community. I think it's the gem of the universe. And I look out at Mount Tacoma every day from my residence and think it's the most beautiful mountain on earth. And we do need to change the name of that mountain back to Mount Tacoma. I have been very fortunate in my life to have very interesting people help give me
Speaking of that,
opportunity.
Dawn, I want to ask you, stay on that same thought with me because I want to hear about who has had the most profound effect in your life.
Are you asking me that question at this moment?
I am asking you that question, sister.
It's really very hard for me to answer, as I suppose it is for everybody, when you think of a certain individual who had more influence over you than anyone else. I would have to, if I have to single out a single person, I would have to say my father. He talked politics and world affairs at the dinner table every night, and he's the one who interested me in the affairs of the world and the things that were going on far outside the city limits of Prosser, Washington. And I'm so grateful to him for that. And also, as I said, he was a legend in the area for his honesty and integrity. And I think that that's a very wonderful role model for any young person to have.
Absolutely. Now, when I asked Babe this question, she answered, her answer surprised me, so I'm really anxious to hear yours in the sense of what was that one negative experience, that big bump in your life where you thought, this is it, I'm not going to make it through this. What was it, and then how did you get through it?
Well, it happened when I was at USC in Los Angeles. My brother-in-law, as I said, was kind of controlling, and he began to tell me how my life was going to proceed, and I decided that I needed to have a change of atmosphere, and that's when I applied to Pan American Airways and became an airline stewardess.
Huge change of scenery as well. Yes.
Yes.
So as you look at this audience and some of the beautiful young people here, what advice do you give them when it comes to being nurtured?
Well, I had a phone call a few months ago, and when I picked up the phone, the voice said, "What is true love?" And I thought for a moment, and I said, "It's total acceptance." And that was the end of the conversation. The person hung up. And I've thought about that several times since that event occurred. And when I think about nurturing, I think, again, it is total acceptance. You cannot really give the best of yourself to another person unless you respect that person totally. And I mean that very sincerely. Little children who deserve positive influence from people to whom they look for care need to have that sense of positive acceptance. I think it's extremely important, and that's one of the things that I feel has guided my life. At one point, when I was in my 20s, I read a book that said, "I do not react, I act." And that influenced my thinking to be positive in everything that I do. I do not entertain a negative thought, and I do not think that, and I think that I'm a much better and happier person for thinking positively and being positive in my attitude.
Dawn, thank you. Thank you so much.